Now let's talk about some more advanced aspects of document flow. In this section, we're going to define shape execution, execution path, documents with multiple records, the original document ID, document failures, and altering the document flow. With shape execution, all documents are processed by a shape, then all documents move on to the next shape. But documents by default do not flow through a process one by one. Instead, they flow through as a group. The documents move together from one shape to another, and then wait for all documents to process in that shape before moving on to the next shape together. A shape will only execute if a document flows into it. So a no data start shape will create a blank document and send it down the process path. This document will trigger the next shape, but it doesn't contain any data. Documents flow from left to right and never affect a prior execution shape, as all documents have passed that shape. Now back to the point about processing as a group. This is more efficient because the shape logic is loaded into memory once for the entire group of documents, instead of initializing a connection or map shape for every document that flows into it. Each document takes an execution path through the process. Different documents can take different paths, and routing shapes can cause different documents to take different paths. But per shape execution, all documents move in step in a branch. Paths execute sequentially, not in parallel, which means a path completes before the next path starts. So true before false in a decision shape, accepted before rejected in a business rules shape. Paths are independent of each other, and branches cannot communicate document changes across branches. You need to use other techniques to pass data to the next path, like a document cache down branch 1, and then retrieving the document or doing a lookup down branch 2. This animation helps to illustrate the branch execution path concept. The branch creates a duplicate set of documents for each path. And the documents which were retrieved from a database have been converted to XML and then upserted to Salesforce. Now that the documents down branch 1 have processed, those in branch 2 will now process. The duplicate documents are in their original state here in branch 2. Now to the concept of a single document that contains multiple records. A document with multiple logical records moves through the Boomi process as a single document. These can be formed when documents are read in through a connector or grouped together in a data process shape as part of the process. Some shapes are only going to be able to reference and or evaluate the first record in the document. The decision shape is one of these shapes. It will send the entire document down the true or false path based upon the first record. We'll see an example of this in our activity. But there are other shapes like the map that are able to reference all records and iterate the records. It's most common to batch flat file and database data, but you could also do that for XML and JSON. Records within a single document can be aggregated in maps. Boomi assigns every document an internal and unpublished identifier known as the original document ID. The process uses this ID to keep track of each document that flows through the process. This keeps document properties and content connected properly. Splitting a document in the process will propagate the original document ID to all of the resulting documents. They all share the same original document ID. Similarly, if you combine documents, they will consolidate into a single document with one original document ID. Most documents come in through a connector shape, but you may have a process that uses a connector call inside another shape, and if that creates a new document, then it will get an original document ID. If you bring in a document containing multiple records and split it, once again propagating the original document ID to all of the split documents, then you can use the View Linked Documents command in Document Detail View to see the results of all associated documents. Now we're going to wrap all these concepts together and talk about document failure. When an exception occurs, the affected document stops immediately and does not continue to subsequent shapes. What happens on the back end is AtomSphere marks the original document ID as a failure, and that has some repercussions. A process level exception stops all documents and the entire process immediately. But document level exception will stop just the individual document, but other documents will continue processing. Documents have an original document ID, and this is marked as a failure when the document is in error. So when a document with multiple records fails, then all of the split documents fail and stop processing. This is because they share the same original document ID, which is marked as a failure. You get similar results when you combine documents. So if one record in the combined document fails, then the entire document fails. Again, there's one original document ID when you combine documents into a single document. This animation illustrates the document failure concept. So we have two documents loaded from a database query. The branch shape duplicates the inbound documents. The documents process down path 1 first, where one document errors in the connector and the other document continues. That means only failed documents stop processing, but other documents complete normally here in the second path. Now here's an illustration of the document failure concept with a data process split operation. A single FTP file is read as one original document. The data process shape splits the file into multiple documents. The branch shape creates a copy of the documents for each path. One document errors, which causes all documents that began as part of the original FTP file to fail. And all documents that started with the original document are going to fail if any single document fails. Now, if you want an alternative to the one fails, all fails with split documents, because you might bring in a document containing multiple records, then you can use a try-catch shape. Try-catch is typically used in error handling, and we do cover this in Developer 2. But we bring it up here because the try-catch automatically resets the original document ID of each document to a unique ID. And it does this so that each document can fail individually. There's no other shape or strategy you can use to reset the ID, only the try-catch. So let's look at another example with a document split. Again, one document with multiple records is brought in from the start shape. The data process shape splits the records into two different documents with the same document ID. The try-catch shape resets the document ID so that each document can fail individually. All documents flow down the try path. Document 2 fails at the Salesforce connector, while document 1 flows to completion. So all failed documents follow the catch path. Another way to alter document flow, and this is not related to batch documents or errors, but that is the flow control shape. And just like the name suggests, the flow control shape allows you to control the document flow. You can execute documents individually through the process or set an arbitrary group size. With this shape, you can do parallel processing across threads or across JVMs. So the documents execute one at a time and wait for the document to complete the entire process before the next starts. Now, with running documents individually, you do see a significant performance decrease because each document has to initialize each shape in the process. That means the process has to initialize a new connection to the connector endpoint for each document instead of doing that task once for the whole process. But there are some times where this can be useful. If you have cases where one record post impacts the next, incremental inventory counts, or for detecting duplicates across documents with the group.